Hello again guys, welcome back. Got another review for you today. We're on the Honda CRF250 Rally. Now this bike is actually based on the CRF250L. There's not a massive amount of difference between the two bikes, so it's the same engine, liquid cooled, single cylinder, 250, same kind of rear end, same wheels, everything else. The difference that comes in the design of the front end. So we've got wider front fairings, we've got this funky looking screen and headlights. The whole thing is apparently based on the 450 Dakar bike, and I must admit, when I first saw this bike I wasn't sure, because I only saw it in pictures. I wasn't sure about it. It kind of looked a bit too weird to me, but seeing it in the flesh, I mean, it still looks pretty funky, don't get me wrong, but I do quite like it. It certainly appeals to me more as a slightly older, I mean, I'm not older, but, you know, I'm not a teenager. I kind of feel that pure dirt bikes and motocross bikes are kind of for the kids. This kind of feels a little bit more grown up. So, what else can I tell you about this bike? The fuel tank. Again, upgraded. That's 10.5 litre now instead of, I can't remember what it is on the standard CRF. I think it's something like 7 litres or something. So bigger capacity. Obviously the screen and the fairings here are going to provide you with much better wind protection, which is quite nice. Yeah, it's an interesting one, this, because so most other manufacturers, Kawasaki, BMW and all that lot, they're really tapping into the current kind of adventure style bike craze, in that they're creating smaller capacity versions of their larger adventure bikes. So the Kawasaki Versys 300 as an example, or the Suzuki V-Strom 250, which will be coming out soon. What Honda have done, instead of offering a smaller capacity version of the Africa Twin, is to offer this. Now this kind of makes it stand out because this is just that little bit lighter. I mean, it is at the end of the day a dirt bike, so it's a lot lighter and a lot easier to throw around as compared to a tourer, even a small capacity tourer, and that kind of appeals to me in a lot of ways. So yeah, I really like that about it. What else can I say about this before we get on it and go? Oh yeah, you can actually get, there's a company in America called Camel that do actually do a 6.5 litre auxiliary fuel tank that you can put here. So that further increases your range, which is pretty fantastic, I think. I mean, I could imagine myself on this bike doing, going touring, because it's got fantastic off-road capabilities, it's not too bad on-road. It's a 250, it's not the most powerful thing in the world, but it's got enough grunt to do motorway speeds comfortably. But it's not heavy, and that for me, oh wow, I've literally just noticed there was a hole in my glove. Anyway, yeah, for me, I find this a very nice bike. Anyway, let's get on it and go through some more bits. Now, sitting on the bike, the seat is quite hard. Again, this seems to be a thing with Hondas. I had the same thing with the Africa Twin. That said, it's hard but not uncomfortable, so I don't imagine it's gonna cause any problems. I think, you know, you think you'd quite happily tour on this for a good couple of hours without getting a numb backside or anything. The only thing I will say is, so down here, where the front end comes out, where you've got the gear lever there, my big feet do tend to rub and get caught on that bit, so it's a bit awkward to get to the gear lever, and that's a bit of a shame. I suppose that's my fault for having such big feet. Although I'm only size 10, I mean, you know, that's pretty average, I thought. Well, anyway, so there's that. And, of course, as with all new Hondas, the horn is right above the indicators, and it's a bigger button. So, you know, when I go to press the indicator cancel, I press the horn, and it's, oh, why do you keep doing this to us, Honda? Why? Move it up a bit, or across a bit, or just do something to make this easier. I mean, look, it's right up, the indicators are right under there. This is all up here. Whatever. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, What else before we get going? ABS. This bike has ABS. It can be turned off by pressing and holding this button for when you're off-roading, but that's a nice little safety feature. I quite like that. Apart from that, it's very basic. I mean, it's got a good sort of positioning to it. The handlebars are perfectly fine. It's not the most complicated thing in the world. I mean, look, it's all just your basic gears. You know, you haven't got any kind of extra thrills on this particular bike. It's a standard manual, no flappy paddle automatic stuff or anything like that. But then, to be fair, for just over £5,000, you know, you're not expecting that much. But for that price, I think it's actually quite reasonable. They do say that the service intervals on this is pretty good. The engine is apparently bomb-proof, will last donkey's years. Yeah, for all intents and purposes. I mean, and the plastics, do you know what? They don't feel too cheap. They don't feel too cheap at all, actually, which I'm quite surprised at in this day and age, because a lot of the time now they're sort of really, you know, cheaping out on the plastics, but I'm actually quite impressed with that. Cool, right, anyway, that's enough of me babbling. Let's get this thing out on the road and see what she's actually like. So we've got that nice digital display there, nice and high up, so we can see it. That's good. Right. Stick her in gear. There we go. Right. Right, let's take this for a blast up the A road and see how she does. There's always a load of traffic when you don't want it, isn't there? Cool, go. Right, so we're just going to go up onto the motorway now and see what she feels like on the faster roads. And then, oh, okay, you're going that way. And then we'll see how well she does on the slightly smaller roads. Putting on there. She does sound quite nice. There we go. So, yeah, no, as I'm riding along, the seating position is really very comfortable. I feel quite good on this, actually. Brakes are good, very responsive. Obviously you've got the ABS there, which is always nice. Just makes it reassuring under hard braking. Right, let's just negotiate this bit. Warm. Let's get down onto that, shall we? Yeah. It doesn't feel like a dirt bike at all. It does feel like an adventure bike. But as I say, it's much lighter, so it's a good compromise, I think, between the two. And that said, I mean, being lighter weight, it doesn't feel too skittish either. Like, sometimes with lighter bikes, especially when you start going faster, they start to feel a little bit skitty, a little bit kind of unstable underneath you, but this is quite nice. It doesn't feel quite as planted as anything like the Africa Twin, but it's by no means unstable. It's really very nice. The screen does a pretty good job as well as the fairings here. The wind is being sort of thrown around me rather than into me, which is obviously a very nice thing. Because that's the one thing. If you're going on motorways and stuff like that, you very soon become, you know, tired out by being hit by the wind. So if you're looking for a very lightweight adventure bike, this is definitely one to go for. Right, what gear are we in? Let's drop her down and open her up a bit more. That's more like it. Okay. See, she's not massively powerful. Even compared to other 250s I've driven, she does feel a little bit underpowered. But that said, she's still got more grunt than a 125, so I can't really complain too much. Although, you know, we're going up this hill here in, I'm guessing must be top gear. And what we're doing, 60, she's not got much more go in her. I have to drop down to go any faster. But she's alright, she is alright. Not too bad at all, I don't think. I still don't know, because I'm sort of half debating whether I want to buy one of these. And I'm still not entirely convinced. I think we need to get off the main road and take her on some twisty bits, see how she fares before I make a decision. But yeah, so far I'm quite liking it, actually. Yeah, not getting blasted too much. Lovely. Right, let's see if we can go for an overtake. Oh, that's it. I'll tell you what, that's the problem. So she's got plenty of grunt in the pretty much through most of the gears, but the second you put her into top gear, it almost loses all of its, I don't know, I think top gear might be geared a bit too high. It just kind of loses everything. I think you probably have to wring it out quite a bit in fifth before you go up into sixth, because like I say, as soon as you go into top gear, it really does suddenly drop. You lose your torque. Right, what's going on? I'll tell you what though, this bike does make you kind of, it makes you want to relax and enjoy the ride, but at the same time, it kind of makes you want to be a bit of a hooligan as well, because it is still a dirt bike. It is still, you know, it's still got that kind of teenage, let's tear some shit up kind of mentality to it. Oh, it's hilarious. I do like this. I do like this quite a lot, actually. Right. Handles really nicely. It's not quite as easy to chuck around as the Africa Twin. Funnily enough, the Africa Twin was actually easier to chuck around than this, but at the same time, oh yeah, oh there's the ABS. Oh yeah, that works well. That works really well. Oh, I had to give that a bit of a test. Come on, Sam. There's the ABS again. Woohoo! Oh, this is such a hooligan bike. It is a hooligan bike. Oh, I've got to be more careful on this thing. Fuck, I love this. You didn't stand a chance. Oh mate, this is funny. Do you know what? I think I still need to see what it's like around the smaller roads, and we'll do that in a second. But I think, just from that little bit of riding, I think I do really quite like this bike. Oh. There's him looking in his mirrors now going, what the fuck was that? Couldn't keep up with me, Sam. Couldn't keep up. Right, so now we're on the slightly more slower twisty roads. Obviously the one thing with this bike being a slightly lower capacity, it's only a 250, it's not got as much pull as you would get out of a 3 or 500, but it does pull up the hills quite nicely. The slower speeds, just cruising along, it feels, again, just like on the motorway, it feels really nice. Yeah, I could quite happily see myself riding around all day on this thing, quite happily. It was really nice. I think when it comes to the kind of people that this bike is going to appeal to though, it's a very small market, because, you know, people are either going to be interested in the lightweight adventure bikes or the heavyweight adventure bikes or dirt bikes. This is a very interesting one because it is obviously, it's a Dakar bike in a sense, and it's very unique in that way. But then, I mean, so it appeals to me obviously because I like oddball bikes. I like bikes that are a bit different and a bit away from the norm, so it'll appeal to people like me massively. But I'll be interested to see how many of these actually sell. I mean, it's been out, I can't remember how long this has been out now. I mean, this is the 2017 version, but they have had this bike out for a little while, so I've not actually, I must admit, I've not actually been and had a look at the specs and seen, you know, how many have sold and stuff like that. But it kind of, it feels to me like the kind of bike that you buy, you know, if you're a bit older, you're not a teenager, you want a dirt bike, but you don't want a dirt bike because dirt bikes are kind of a bit too much, you know, they've got that kind of that thing about them that kind of, you know, teenagers and young adults drive them. So by the time you get to your 30s, 40s, you're probably getting to a stage where you shouldn't be riding them anymore. So this kind of appeals to people like that, and that's why it appeals to me. It's good balance. It is good balance. Right, where do I want to go? I'm going to go that way. Right, let's go in here a minute. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's do a summary then. So, overall I really actually quite like this bike in the end. The styling is very oddball, but then I like oddball bikes. It won't appeal to everybody, but I think it's definitely going to appeal to older people that want a dirt bike, not an adventure bike, a dirt bike, but don't want a proper sort of teenage style one. Overall, the build quality of the bike is really nice. The plastics are quite, you know, well made. The only thing I will say is this side stand, because it does only have a side stand, I'm not sure I trust it all that much. It looks a bit flimsy, the bike doesn't look overly stable on it. But apart from that, I have to say I really quite like it. I definitely recommend it. I mean, go out and test ride it, guys. Definitely. Right, well that'll do. What else was I going to say? No, I think that was it. Look out for my other reviews. If you guys did like this video, please do subscribe and like. I will be doing more in the coming sort of weeks. If you do have any requests as to bikes you'd like to see reviewed, please do drop them in the comments section and I'll be sure to try and get those done for you. In the meantime, if you have any other questions about this bike, or if you just want to generally let me know your thoughts, again, leave comments. But for now, thanks for watching and goodbye, guys.